Hello guys, it is I, Otakushinsaku, and um for those watching live, hello. For those watching recorded on YouTube, also hello. And yes, this is going to be a new setup as I used to do these videos pre-recorded and then go through the hassle of editing and green screening and everything, whereas now I've just decided to do everything live since I'm back on Twitch. So for those who want to join me live for segments like this and other things that might become segments through my YouTube, as YouTube will be where I just throw all my Twitch highlights and segments and stuff like that. So for those who want to join me live, you can find me on Twitch with the same username that I use. This is Otakushinsaku is my universal username now for my all my public profiles. So just go to Twitch and you'll find me. And all that good stuff. And as you can see on the right hand side of the screen is a transparent square that you will see that in a lot of my reaction videos, as that is a program I use to monitor my chat, as I don't have multiple monitors. I have a single monitor, so I'm using that to monitor my chat in real time. As you can see, it's blank, but in the future, as I get more and more people in my chat, you'll see that things start fill up over time. But as of right now, whatever. But I just have it there in case. Let me make it transparent. So, uh, get a good drink. Um, and off we go. Let me make sure that let me make sure all the programs are running. All the good stuff. I'm streaming right. Oh yeah, look at that. I'm using OBS. Oh my god, a little behind the scenes drama. Oh no. Okay. Uh, Might as well to save RAM. Turn off the preview. Oh yeah, save that beautiful RAM. Anyway, let's get into this video. The 5 servants who would beat Gilgamesh. I highly doubt that, but we'll see what this guy's opinion is.
So I was working on a Beast Nero video because she just recently came out over on the JP version of FGO, and she's pretty insanely OP. But as I was doing that video, I realized I was going to get some comments about why Gilgamesh was still the strongest servant, and you guys will understand that when that other video actually releases. But then that kind of made a interesting thought experiment pop into my head, that why don't we just do like a video talking about 5 servants that would just whoop Gilgamesh in a fight. That's very hard for me to say because, as many of you guys know, Gilgamesh is not only my favorite character in the Fate franchise, but he's one of my favorite characters in fiction, period. But even then, I'm not so blind that I can't say that he's capable of being beaten by quite a few people. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I can come up with another 5. I could probably come up with a solid like 25 to 30 people. But at least for this one, when we're starting out, we're going to start out pretty tame and not use any of like the insane Lost Belt characters. Like, I'm not going to use free W's like Zeus, Arjuna Alter, Scotty, Chi Shi Huang, even Ivan. All of these Lost Belt characters are kind of just a bit too OP for Gilgamesh to deal with. Part 2 is just insanely stronger than Part 1 FGO. Think of Dragon Ball Super versus Dragon Ball Z. They're really not comparable at all whatsoever. So with that being said, make sure you strap into your chair, grab some popcorn, get ready to clickety-clack your angry comment in the comments down below, and let's get right into it. Starting off with number 5, we have someone who I think is going to surprise a lot of my anime-only watchers or people that have only read the VN like 20 years ago, and that's going to be Ku Alter from the American Singularity. Now,
And when first time watching this video, so we'll get to that. But I just wanted to put this out there that I do like that he went with Ku Alter and not Ku Kalane, because regular Ku Kalane from the visual novel got his ass whooped by pretty much every servant outside of Assassin, which is sad because Assassin is canonically the weakest class. They are literal, like, the assassin class is a class designed not to attack other servants, but to attack the master. They are literal master assassins, like literally assassins of the masters, and not the servants. if you summon a Hassan or whatever, or pretty much anyone of the assassin class outside of the Lost Belt assassins, they'll pretty much get their ass whooped by even the weakest of not assassins, but the weakest of servants from the other classes. Outside of probably some casters, like again, like literally just like author casters, like you know, fucking Shakespeare. But other than that, like when you talk about like the more martial classes, like archers, riders, especially sabers, stuff like that, like oh yeah, the assassin get their ass whooped. Um, so with Coup Ultra though, I get his point because Kukulane Alter is the absolute pinnacle of strength for any version of Kukulane. Uh, but they get that strength in a very evil manner in the fact that they, basically give into the more demonic arts of Ireland. So that's why the other versions of Kukulane don't like his alter self. Because while he is strong and they admit that, it's like false strength. It is strength with purely through like the most evil and twisted runic magic. Um but that being said, yeah, Ku Alter in a straight up one-on-one fight could win. Though again, I don't know if he's going to bring this up. This does heavily imply that Gilgamesh does not pull out Ia because Ia is the instant win button. Like Ku Alter is strong. He's not surviving Ia strong. That's the problem. Like that's the ultimate problem with beating Gilgamesh is that you basically have to beat Gilgamesh before he pulls out Ia. Like you just have to blitz Gilgamesh. Like you either have to blitz Gilgamesh before he pulls out Ia, or fight Gilgamesh when he's in a mood and rationale that he doesn't need to pull out Ia, which is ultimately why he didn't win against Shiro. Right? In every Gilgamesh versus Shiro fight, Gilgamesh only lost because he didn't pull out Ia. Like, in Fate Stay Night, Gilgamesh would have definitively won if he just would have went for Ia frame 1. Like, if Gilgamesh pulled out Ia frame 1, Shiro would have lost, Saber would have had nothing. Because this would have been Saber before the ending of Fate, so she wouldn't have had Avalon to survive. Yeah. Again, that's the problem with Gilgamesh, is that you have to beat him before he pulls out Ia. Or you have to hope that you're fighting Caster Gilgamesh and that he doesn't have Ia. Though, again, hard to say if he does or not, because while Caster Gilgamesh is a Gilgamesh is like, well, I've given away all my treasures, wouldn't believe that he would give away Ia. Gilgamesh does not strike me as a type of person who is that idiotic to give away literally his strongest weapon in terms of Ia. Like he would give away all the others. Like he'd give away all of his other treasures. I could believe that, but specifically Ia, no, 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 no.
I call out those people specifically because they don't seem to think that Ku is all that impressive, despite the fact that during Fate Stay Night, the base Lancer Ku that we know was not allowed to fight all out at all whatsoever. I mean, that's actually why he tells Saber, do not follow me after their first encounter, because his command spell order is that on his first encounter with people, he is not supposed to kill them and he's not supposed to go all out. But if he leaves and Saber pursues him, that counts as a second encounter and he was going to whoop her. Hence why Emiya does pretty decently against Ku in their first encounter at the school, and when he encounters Ku at the church again, Emiya gets whooped. In fact, did you know that Ku was able to fight Gilgamesh for 12 hours straight before finally giving in and being defeated? We don't even know how he was defeated, but if you've only seen the Studio Dean adaptation, you wouldn't know that because the anime, again, does Ku very dirty, which is where I believe FGO started their Ku revival project. Because they realized that they didn't really make Ku look as OP as they wanted, despite the fact that Nasu seems to really like the Celtic mythology and really wants them to be super dummy OP. So he starts out with Caster Ku, basically having him be the last bastion in Fuyuki, 1v6ing the other servants as Saber Ultra has turned everybody against him, and he has to hold out and find some way to bring them all down without his signature lance. He's got to do it with a stick. Now, again, for my FGO players, I'm not going to spoil too much about Lost Boat 6 for you guys, but you'll find out why that stick is pretty OP. Regardless.
Yeah, because we're, because people, again, people who are not into the absolute depths of Fate lore would not know, or Fate lore or Irish lore, really, for Irish mythology lore, because that's where a lot of this comes from and gets adapted into Fate, wouldn't know. It's easy to look at Ku because of how he fights as just a fighter. Oh, he just pokes people with a lance. He's literally the prototypical lancer. No. The dude is... You could take away Gay Bolg, and the dude is still a menace. There are many, many times in Irish mythology where Ku did not have Gay Bolg and still fought off entire armies by himself. The dude is called Irish Hercules for a reason, because the dude just will not stop. The dude will 1v1 entire armies just because his ego demands it. So, no, this guy, Ku is a menace when you actually get him going. And he's got more than Gay Bolg, because keep in mind, Gay Bolg isn't the only thing. It's not like he was taught by Skahawk that, oh, this is the Gay Bolg, this is the only thing I'm going to teach you. No, Skahawk taught him all of the runes she knew. And keep in mind, she's a god killer. She kills Irish gods. The runes she knows are powerful enough runes to take on the very gods themselves, and she taught those to Ku Klane. So, you could take away Gay Bolg. Good luck getting it out of his hands, but if you did, for example, you summoned him in a caster class, oh, he doesn't have Gay Bolg, so you think you can win. No, not really. Because, again, he's got access to runes that could take on the gods themselves. So, good luck. And then, of course, Ku Alter, that's why Ku Alter is so dangerous, in the fact that it's an unleashed Ku who no longer cares and no longer is holding back. And so, Ku Alter is, you get to see through Ku Alter what Ku Klane could be if he just went all out and just went I'm going to use every rune and every ability with the Gay Bolg that I know. I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to fight fair. There's not going to be any honor. I'm going to fight straight up dirty. And I'm going to show you what I can do. I'm going to show you what I can do when I fully unleash the teachings of Skahawk, the killer of gods.
They did him pretty good in the OVA, they did him pretty good in game as well, but then they completed the Ku revival project by making Ku Alter, where Maeve wishes upon the Holy Grail to get herself a Ku that is a proper king, and a proper king this guy was. Because he starts out by absolutely splattering Rama. Now, if you're not as familiar with, say, Hindu mythology, just consider that Rama, at the very least, is someone on par with Karna and Arjuna, if not being much greater. Also keep in mind that this is base Ku Alter, as in FGO, your ascensions are kind of like different stages and evolutions of yourself that make you significantly stronger, and we will get those evolutions as the singularity goes on. Where Ku Alter would start performing some of the most ridiculous feats we've seen up to that point in Fate, where Nero uses her NP, which is supposed to completely block out the outside world and weaken the targets that are inside the domain of her NP. Ku Alter just kind of waltzes in there, and Nero's tone changes from "we're going to take out Maeve" and bring an end to this singularity to, okay, let me try to rationalize my way out of this situation. And Kuwalter was having none of it and absolutely took them all out. We then find out that he's basically taken the aforementioned Arjuna and basically made him his lapdog, which is absolutely insane if you know anything about Arjuna. And now he's also relative to Karna, who is also relative to Gilgamesh. That's going to be very important in just a second, because Kuwalter one-shots Karna with Gay Bolg, which is insane in and of itself, but then Karna shoots Kuwalter in the back with Vasanti Shakti, his NP that is about on par with Aya, but against Kuwalter, it's actually a bit better because it has special properties against people with divinity, and would you look at that, Kuwalter has divinity and absolutely eats the attack, and this is not even a one-off thing that he does, because in his interlude, he does it again, so it's a consistent thing that they just want Kuwalter to have these crazy heroes on the level of Karna and Arjuna just be absolutely beneath him. In fact, it's so crazy that we don't even know how Kuwalter was defeated, and I mean that in a very literal sense. They don't show us the attack that beats him, we don't see the combo, because we walk in with Rama in his ascended state, Nightingale, and a couple of other servants, and we see that Kuwalter is slowly powering up. He goes from Ascension 1 to 2 to 3. He even gains the power of the Holy Grail. And then they say, all right, we're going to go and fight him for one last time. And then the next cutscene just opens with, all right, we did it. Somehow we were able to beat him. Because I think the writers realized that there was no realistic way to take this guy out. Someone that is able to absolutely bully the likes of Karna and Arjuna, people that are on the level of Gilgamesh, is really hard for you to just beat into some one-off wave statement like that. But he is the first person that we have that would absolutely bully Gilgamesh in a fight. Moving on to our number 4. Coming in at number 4, we have another one that I think is going to shock a lot of people, but that's actually going to be Iskandar. And I hear a lot of people kind of scratching their heads being like, hey, wait a minute, didn't...
Now, I'm a huge fan of Iskander. I call him Broskander. Broskander. But no, I'm a huge fan of Iskander from Fate Zero, and all of that stuff. So, in fact, between one of my friends and I, who are one of my major friends who's a Fate fan with me, he's Team Gilgamesh all the way, and I'm Team Iskander. Like, basically, I would bow down to Iskander, he would bow down to Gilgamesh. So basically, keep in mind, what I'm saying is basically what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, like, my king. At least my chosen king. So, Iskander, king of conquerors, my king. My king! Anyway, he was kings. Anyway, Iskander. He could fight Gilgamesh. I can already feel where he's going, because in Fate Zero it showed that he could take on Gilgamesh, and that the only real reason he lost is because Gilgamesh actually followed what I was talking about earlier for Kukulane, which was motherfucker just pulled out Ea because, again, that's the win button. Like, again, if Iskander can fight Gilgamesh without Ea somehow appearing on the field, Iskander has a shot. But again, Ea is that thing that's always looming in the background for Gilgamesh to just pull the I win button. So, there's that. But yes, I can see where he might go with this, because Iskander is up there. And if there's anyone on this list, at least right now, at least the two that we've seen between Kukulane and Iskander, I can see Iskander getting Gilgamesh in a mood where Gilgamesh could be, like, he could be talked into fighting without Ea. Like, I can see that. Because Iskander is one of the few confirmed servants, obviously other than Enkidu, that Gilgamesh respects. So if there's anyone who could talk Gilgamesh into fighting without Ea, in an actual fair fight, without the cheating I win button, it is Iskander. because Iskander's a fucking bro, and the dude and I don't care what the dude's charisma is canonically, it should be a lot higher because we're talking about a guy who has such high charisma that fucking Gilgamesh likes hanging out with the guy.
Gilgamesh beat Iskandar in Fate Zero, and that's about half right. See, unlike most of the Fate fandom,
Also, I will point out, because this has been pointed out before, and I just want to bring this up so that at least somebody in this video brings it up. Not only did Gilgamesh pull out Ea in their fight, but Iskander had to fight with the mount from his child version because his chariot was destroyed at that point. Like, when they actually did their final fight, Fate Zero, Iskander did not have his chariot anymore because that was destroyed in a previous fight. In Fate Zero. So it is remained to be seen what Iskander could do against Gilgamesh, in a fair one-on-one fight when both have their noble phantasm, right? Like, again, in their final fight, the only noble phantasm that Iskander had was his reality marble, which Gilgamesh, which Gilgamesh destroyed using Ea. So, if Iskander actually had his chariot, which is as fast as lightning, because it's a chariot literally called to him by at least not the actual Zeus's lightning, but lightning that represents Zeus. It's not Zeus's lightning because, again, people need to remember this, that like, while lightning obviously is associated with Zeus, lightning from actually Zeus is a lot more powerful than that. Like, it's like, well, how powerful would lightning from Zeus be? I would point towards Percy Jackson as if you want that. Like the entire first book of Percy Jackson, the thing that they're looking for is literally just one Zeus lightning bolt. That's it. Like, literally just one lightning bolt from Zeus. Because they talk about how, if put in the wrong hands, even a single lightning bolt, even a single actual Zeus lightning bolt would have the same destructive power as, like, the biggest nuclear bomb that humanity has ever made. Like, we're talking the actual designed Tsar Bomba, not the one that they actually exploded. Because for those who know their history, they would know that the Soviet Union exploded a smaller bomb than they actually designed. So if you want an actual, like, description of what just a single Zeus lightning bolt could do, we're talking like what the Tsar Bomba was originally designed to do. Yeah. Destruction is not even a word. But just lightning bolts appear, and the chariot appears and the oxen appear and everything, and the chariot is supposedly like lightning quick, especially in pure acceleration. Like, in terms of top speed, it's comparable with basically modern day cars. But my Honda Accord could keep up with, in terms of top speed, my Honda Accord could keep up with the chariot. In terms of raw acceleration, 0 to 60, the chariot beats me every time. The chariot is lightning quick off the starting grid, which is why, using the chariot, Zeus probably could get an upper hand on Gilgamesh because of the fact that he could probably blitz, Gilgamesh before the dude could react. Like he'll probably react quick, but he could react. But again, we're talking about Gilgamesh, who has all sorts of aces up his sleeves. More than likely, if Iskander tried that, dude would just pull out Enkidu and it'll be all over. Because Iskander in the writer class does have the personal skill divinity because of humanity's belief that he is a child of Zeus. Therefore, he's got some divine blood in him, or at least there's divine blood in his spirit origin. Therefore, Enkidu, the chains of Enkidu would work on him. So, yeah, that is the downside. That is the downside when you're fighting Gilgamesh. Is that this guy who's made this video has not brought up the fact that Gilgamesh is just really insanely hard to beat because of his treasury. Like, in a pure matchup of skill, I could see these servants beating Gilgamesh. But the problem I have is that with everything that you can name, Gilgamesh has at least 100 pieces of treasure in his vault. He can pull out to beat that. It's like, oh, you've got divine blood. I've got the chains of Enkidu. Oh, you're this. I got this. You're that. I got this. You know, it's like the dude has so many different things. It's like, again, oh, you know, oh, for some reason you put up a magical spell that blocks servants from going into spirit mode, therefore they can't go invisible or whatever. Oh, but I want to be invisible. Well, I can't go into spirit mode. Rats, you beat me. Oh, except for the fact that I'm Gilgamesh and I literally just pull out a helmet or what looks like a hat and I wear it and I go invisible. Well, wait, I took away your spirit form. I'm not in my spirit form. I'm still in my physical form, but I'm completely invisible and intangible, and you can't touch me because of the fact that the hat I put on was the hat of Hades. So, are there any shadows around? There's always shadows around. That's how physics work. Wherever there's light, there's shadow. Oh! Shit! Isn't that cool? Because the Helm of Hades literally allows me to become literally one with the shadows. Ooh, and I can move from shadow to shadow like I'm teleporting. Holy shit. Oh! Would you look at that? As he pulls out a scythe? Are you some sort of spirit, or do you have a soul? Oh! You have a soul. Well, this is gonna suck for you because, you know what the Grim... Do you know about this guy called the Grim Reaper? Yeah. No big deal. I'm just Gilgamesh, and I'm talking about the Grim Reaper, and I'm holding a scythe. I don't know where you would get the connection. Yeah, no. Gilgamesh is a guy who is ridiculously hard to defeat because of the dude literally has a trump... Literally is the king of trump cards. The dude has in his treasury something he can use to kick your ass. Gilgamesh is literally the avatar. Is literally the avatar of Jack of all trades, master of none. Like, it has been brought up that he is not that. What makes him different than, like, say, Sabers is the fact that he's never trained to perfection with a single sword. He's just basically trained to be good enough with all the weapons in his vault. Because that's just how the guy is. Like, he's not going to train his entire life with one sword. He's just going to be like, I can adequately use all the treasury in my vault, which is going to be more than fine, because the treasury in my vault can carry me, because we're talking about artifacts that can defeat anything. I've got anti-divine artifacts, I've got ships in there that are faster than the speed of light. I've got whatever you need. Like, you know, if it's a treasure, I got it. Whoops. I undid full screen. Go back to full screen.
I actually read and consume most of the media, so I got the full story of what's going on, and I also remember certain events that other people do not. See, if you'll remember, right before Iskandar fighting Gilgamesh, he had an encounter with Artoria, where the Gordius wheel, his chariot, was...
Remember what I was talking about earlier? Yep, that's it. He, again, lost the chariot.
Destroyed by Artoria, because he refused to use his second NP on her, as he did not think she was worthy of it, and he wanted to save at least one of his NPs to fight Gilgamesh, and his idea was, I'm going to save the Infinite Guise NP for the Infinite Weapons NP, which theoretically should have worked, because Gilgamesh didn't even bother using the Infinite Weapons, he went straight for Ea, so Iskandar might have actually been onto something there. But the reason this is actually important is that it changes what happens on the bridge, because people remember that Gilgamesh uses Ea to destroy the reality marble that Iskandar creates, but they don't remember that then Iskandar had to charge on his horse against Gilgamesh. If he had his chariot, which, mind you, if you're an FGO player, you should know how strong this thing is because it uses Zeus's lightning, the battle might have gotten a little different. For one, Iskandar might have just speed blitzed Gil and just ran him over. It moves relative to the speed of Excalibur, and we've already seen Gil get blitzed by Excalibur in the Fate Stay Night route, so that is just already a win condition for Iskandar right there. We also know in Fate Extella, where Iskandar is at his full power, that Gilgamesh wants nothing to do with him. He does not want to fight him. Because in his side story, Iskandar's whole point is that he starts off very weak and he's slowly reclaiming his full power. And once he reclaims his full power, one of the first things he does is, one, beat Karna, but then two, challenge Gilgamesh after beating Karna. And Gilgamesh says, I want nothing to do with this. And he's like, you stay over there, I'm staying over here. Which, you know, you could say is not an admission of defeat by Gilgamesh, because if he does lose that fight, it kind of undermines his first victory, and he doesn't gain a whole lot by beating Iskandar. But I also don't know why Gilgamesh would be cowering away from someone that he actually has respect for. Remember, this is somebody that he brought out Ea against, which he doesn't do unless he absolutely respects the person that he's fighting. And we also know, in fact, that Gilgamesh wants to be friends with Iskandar. He holds him in a very similar regard to Enkidu, but because he promised Enkidu that he wouldn't have any other friends, he can't be buddies with Iskandar, blah, 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 kind of character stuff that you get from the Fate Zero novel. It's a good read, I promise you. But yeah, Iskandar is another one of those servants that could absolutely beat Gilgamesh in a fight. Anytime Gilgamesh is usually coming back for something and Iskandar is present, they're usually held in very similar weights. But on that note, let's pack it up and move over to our number 3. And in this number 3 spot, we actually have another character from Fate Zero in Lancelot. Now, in the novelization, there's almost 3 different tiers of...
I'm gonna have to listen to this. Because for as strong as Lancelot is, Berserker Lancelot did take on Gilgamesh multiple times in Fate Zero. Got his ass kicked by Gilgamesh multiple times in Fate Zero. So I'm curious how this is gonna work. Keep in mind, that was Berserker Lancelot, who is a Lancelot who goes out and blitzes stage 1. Like, if this guy brings up the actual Saber Lancelot, the not Berserker Lancelot, no, because that Lancelot is not fueled by pure rage like Berserker is. So, I don't know. If there was any version of Lancelot who should have won against Gilgamesh, it would have been Berserker, and he got his ass kicked. So yeah.
Of characters that are demonstrated, there is Gilgamesh, Iskandar, and Lancelot, who are kind of like the tier 1 servants. Artoria and Diermut are kind of held in regard as the tier 2, kind of the normal servant. And then in tier 3, you have the Hassans and you have Gilderay, who aren't particularly strong on their own, but if they get some gooning action going, you know, Giles prepares some spells, or the Hassans catch somebody lacking, they might be able to beat some of the other guys, but generally they're going to lose in a straight up fight. And the funny thing about Lancelot in particular is that I don't even have to do any scaling to kind of get him to Gilgamesh. He's already beat him twice. Once is in his interlude in Fate Grand Order, where you and Lancelot are just hanging out and a Shadow Servant version of Gilgamesh pulls up and...
You can't use that as an example. That's a Shadow Servant. They're not as powerful as the real deal. Like, Shadow Servants are designed to be cheap to pay for because they're not as strong as real servants. They are shadows of the real servants. They pale in comparison to the real servants. You can't use that as an example.
Lancelot just kind of walks over to him and just folds him like a lawn chair, which is interesting because in the Fate Zero novel, it's almost implied that Lancelot can keep up with the Gate of Babylon unless it's fully opened, in which case it might be too much for him, but then again, we never see him actually fight that, it's more implied. But then in Fate Grand Order, they kind of just walk that back and they're like, oh, no, 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 no. That was just like some of the masters talking craziness. Lancelot would absolutely go ham on Gilgamesh and just fold him. And before somebody tries to bring up that, like, oh, shadow servants are weaker or whatever.
Oh, something I literally just said. Okay, let's listen to this bullshit.
They are literally just the same servants, and they can actually still use their NPs. Just because they don't use their NPs in gameplay doesn't mean the story is beholden to what is going on in that actual gameplay. Unless they specifically specify it, like with the leveling up mechanics or the ascensions that I mentioned back with Coup Alter, where in those cases they actually blatantly say, yes, these game mechanics do apply to the story, but for the Shadow Servants, never does. The Shadow Servants are essentially ways for the writers to allow a servant to beat another servant without it being the official servant. If that makes some type of sense. They can say that Lancelot properly beat Gilgamesh without having Lancelot actually go to our own Chaldea and bonk Gilgamesh on the head with his own weapon, right? Because it's a bit easier to do when instead of having the charismatic aura that Gilgamesh usually has, he's essentially beating this lifeless husk version of Gilgamesh. So it's not going to offend the fans like me that really like Gil a lot. But even if you don't accept that, look at the Fate Zero event, which brought back Urobuchi, the same guy that wrote the Fate Zero novel. And when they need a way to beat Gilgamesh, they're like, it's pretty much unbeatable. There's not very many people that can match the King of Heroes. They go and find Karya and Lancelot and persuade them to help them, and then Lancelot just pulls up and beats up Gilgamesh. And so when the writer who wrote the original series of Fate Zero comes back and has Lancelot be the one to beat Gil, I think that's kind of like the most concrete evidence you can actually go for. Now, to kind of throw me and the other Gil fans a little bit of a bone, Gil did not use Ea, but why would he against someone like Lancelot? He never would. He considers Lancelot to be this rabid dog, as he calls him, and he's not going to give that person the same respect that he does people like, say, Enkidu or Iskandar. And so, if anything, not only does Lancelot have the skill advantage over Gilgamesh to beat Gate of Babylon, but he never has to worry about him pulling out Ea because it's not in Gilgamesh's character to do that. So he has the personality going for him just because he happens to be a little insane, and he's got the skill to beat him, which I also just think is very funny. Then coming in...
Still disagree because of the fact that whether or not it's in character or not, again, Gilgamesh could at any time pull out Ea. Clearly you could tell in the end he was hedging, but clearly he was just like, well, it's not in his personality for him to pull out Ea. Fully implying that even this guy knows that Lancelot may be powerful, but anti-Ea powerful, he is not. So that's the problem.
And at the number 2 spot, we basically have the reason that I sat down and decided to do this video. We have Arthur.
Arthur Prototype, a version of King Arthur that has canonically demonstrated in Prototype to be up there with Gilgamesh. This is true. But there's a big butt. There's a giant butt. There's a big fat booty. Which is, this fight more than likely would not happen outside of Prototype because of the fact that King Arthur, unless Gilgamesh is on the side of B666, which Gilgamesh is not. He's definitely not. Because Gilgamesh is not, because it would be the other way around. Gilgamesh would be in control of B666. See, so the only time that Prototype would actually fight Gilgamesh again outside of the Prototype storyline is if Gilgamesh is in cahoots with B666. So unless that ever happens, this version of King Arthur is never going to fight Gilgamesh again because he has no reason to. More than likely, because of his personality, he would actually get along with the canonical version of Gilgamesh. And um, there's also the fact that, again, they just have no reason to fight. And Arthur Pendragon is not a guy who can be summoned normally, being the fact that the dude is not really dead. He, like, again, he's in a similar he's in a similar thing as Artoria, except for basically, like Artoria at the end of Fate, he no longer has a wish for the Grail, so there's that. He, under a normal Grail war, he really can't be summoned because he doesn't have a wish. He has no real want for the Grail. As the dude is just going around looking for B666 and is basically just doing everything he can to eliminate B666 forever, which after that's done, he goes to Avalon and rests. Right? B666 is his last quest. After B666 is done, his quest is done, and he'll be locked away in Avalon forever. Because, again, once in Avalon, he can't be summoned, and he won't have any need, because hypothetically, if he's in Avalon, and even if the Grail could touch his soul from there, he would not accept the contract because there's nothing he'd want. He's like, well, B666 is permanently gone. I know that because I did that with my own hands. So unless B666 is back, which not, then there's nothing the Grail could even promise me that I would want. I have everything I want in Avalon. So yeah. So I mean I can get this, but yeah. So fuck it. I was tempted on skipping forward, but let's listen. Let's listen to his reasoning. Even though I can kind of feel where he's going to go, which is probably just bring up all the stuff that he did in Prototype, which is fair because, again, I'll play it for the people who don't know the Prototype storyline, but as someone who knows the Prototype storyline, I can already heavily feel where this is going.
Because I needed to explain why Arthur was so cracked in the Beast Draco video and why it was such a big deal that he was being called in to fight her. And then I realized I could do this video and talk about why Arthur is absolutely insane by talking about how he's going to smack up Gilgamesh. For starters, Arthur has to be one of the craziest, if not the craziest normal servant we have access to in Fate Grand Order. Because sure, we have like grand servants, we have servants that are like the embodiments of outer gods and stuff, but Arthur over here is a normal servant that is doing the job of a grand servant numerous times over. The whole point of him as a normal guy is that he's running around hunting down beasts. When Kiara appeared in Fate Grand Order, Arthur appeared. When Kama appeared, he also came by to see what was going on. When Draco appeared, he came by and had things to say about it. He is the beast hunter, a normal servant doing the job of a grand servant, and has actually already slain one of his first beasts in beating Mother Harlot. Not to get into it too much because I don't want to spoil my Beast Nero video, but basically consider the fact that Mother Harlot has already beaten Gilgamesh before in canon numerous times. And then Arthur was basically the main force we had against Mother Harlot, as even acknowledged by Beast Draco in her event in Fate Grand Order. So if Mother Harlot's already taken out Gilgamesh and then Arthur takes her out, that's kind of a very basic progression of power there. There's also the fact that the Gilgamesh that Arthur's beaten in Prototype might actually be stronger than the Gilgamesh that we have, because that guy in Ku had to fight the first Prototype war and allegedly helped him bring down the original B6, although that might also be retconned to kind of take all the Prototype stuff with a grain of salt until they actually start solidifying it. But at the very least, those guys look like they're absolutely built different, because the first Grail War they were fighting against was like Arash, who just because he's a 1-star in FGO does not mean he's any less cracked. I think it's a very good idea if you go look into how strong that dude actually is. You have people like Ozymandias, Jekyll and Hyde, who is absolutely cracked out of his mind, Paracelsus. All these guys that we have in Fate Grand Order that are like these low rarity guys are like the most cracked people of all time in Fate prototype. And again, that was what Arthur's Gilgamesh and Ku had to go fight against while he was busy dealing with the Beast, and then he's already beat that Gilgamesh. So yeah, pretty insane. And then finally, we have Lancer Artoria. Now, this one might be a little bit confusing for some people because Lancer Artoria doesn't seem to do a whole lot in Camelot, but she is portrayed to be very, very strong. And so,
Well, now he's just going for the top, because for those who don't know, the lance you see on screen right now, the lance that you see that she is holding, is keep in mind, Excalibur is said to be an actual match for Ea. That if there is any sword, period, that could actually sword clash Ea and possibly even win, it's Excalibur. Because Excalibur is the sword of promised victory. It is a sword that is the avatar and representation of all humanity's desire to win. And when I say win, I don't mean like win a war or win a battle. I mean win as in the concept of victory. Excalibur represents the very concept of humans achieving victory over anything. Victory as a concept is what Excalibur promises. It is the sword of promised victory. So, if there is a way to win in any way, no matter how small of a chance, it could be a 0.000000000, etc., 6% chance of winning, and Excalibur will promise that victory almost guaranteed. So, while Ea is super powerful, at a insanely microscopic at an insanely microscopic scale, there is a chance to win against Ea. Therefore, Excalibur will exploit that and make that almost a guarantee. So, there's that. And then you have the lance, which is said to be more powerful than Excalibur. So you take that chance, which, as I keep saying in hedging, is like an almost chance, and with the lance, it makes it a guarantee. Because the lance is not a lance that promises victory, that's the sword. The lance that you see her holding is a shadow, a mere physical avatar for what it actually is. See, that lance is just a portable version of what it actually is and what it actually represents, which is, in Fate, there's this concept that the world as we know it is in layers, is built upon layers, like an onion, right? So the planet we live on is not like this single thing. Like I said, it's more like an onion with many different layers. And the thing holding all of those layers together is that lance. Now, it's not the only thing. It's one of many different treasures that are out there that are holding the world together, but it is the canonical last one. Meaning, once you take out all the other artifacts that are keeping the world together, that lance is the last one you have to take out. It will be the last bastion holding this world together. Holding all the what they call textures and layers of this planet together. So, that lance is single-handedly the most powerful artifact humanity has ever touched. Period. Bar none. That lance can do basically whatever Artorio wants. And not only that, it is a lance that the longer someone is around it, the more divine they become. Lancer Artoria is almost impossible outside of Che Dahlia working bullshit to summon because of the fact that if you think Saber Artoria is weird, and the fact that Saber Artoria is basically in this time loop whenever she gets summoned. Lancer Artoria is nearly impossible to summon for one aspect. Canonically, she's never died. See, all the other versions of Artoria eventually do meet their end and go to Avalon. Lancer Artoria, like prototype King Arthur is one. He canonically hasn't gone to Avalon yet because he's doing the beast hunting thing. Whereas Lancer Artoria, so long as she keeps holding the lance, which she will because she is literally Lancer, that is what she will keep wielding. So long as she keeps wielding that lance, she cannot die. Why? Because she is a literal capital G goddess now. She's not just a king, she's a goddess. Because that lance, by physically being in the lance's presence, has slowly trickled, over time, it slowly trickled into Artoria's soul and slowly filled it up more and more with divine energy. And so you get to where Lancer Artoria is now, where she is a literal capital G goddess, because of the fact that we're talking about a Lancer Artoria who's been around that lance for like thousands and thousands of years now, and so she is fully ascended to beyond lower G god to capital G god in terms of raw divinity. So there's that. In order to defeat her, you would have to bring out anti-divine weapons and attacks. And then you would have to get past the lance, which as a weapon is so single-handedly powerful. Again, it by itself can hold together the entire reality that is the Fate version of planet Earth in all of its textures and layers and everything. As well as the fact that it's a weapon that does not know range. And when I say that, I mean there is nowhere you can go that the lance can't touch you. Right? So long as you are on the planet somewhere, the lance can touch you. And because again, the lance exists in all the layers of the planet because it holds everything together, even if you hypothetically were to go from this topmost layer that we all exist on and go to the beneath layers, somehow, if you were to somehow get access to the other layers beneath us, the lance would still be able to touch you. Because the lance still exists there too. Again, it exists in all layers because it's holding the damn thing together. So, wherever you go, the lance can touch you. And Artoria doesn't have to actually physically move. She could just command the lance to launch a bombardment against you while sitting in a chair, and the lance will just find you. Like, there is nowhere you can run, nowhere you can go that can escape the lance. It is the most sacred of sacred weaponry outside of it's actually in terms of power, it would actually be even more powerful than I would say the lance that pierced Jesus Christ. So yeah, that thing is just straight up broken. Like when you bring up Lancer Artoria, you're bringing up not really Artoria herself. You're bringing up her lance, which is again one of the most broken things in all of the Fate universe. Because that lance can take on alien gods. Like that, because as we do know through Fate Grand Order that, for example, the H.P. Lovecraft mythos does exist in the Fate universe. Like for example, for those who don't know, for those who don't know, things like Cthulhu is legitimately real. Like, for those who don't know, yeah, Cthulhu is a real canon thing in Fate. So the outer gods of Fate Grand Order, not a Fate Grand Order, the outer gods of H.P. Lovecraft do exist in Fate, and that lance can blitz them. Like, that lance could destroy, uh, like, a fully awakened, fully powered up, you know, fully awakened, fully powered up Cthulhu would pale in comparison to the pure might and power of that lance. So yeah, like, I can see his point because of the fact that if there's anyone or anything that can beat Gilgamesh, even if Gilgamesh pulled out Ea, it would be that lance. That lance would destroy Ea. It would destroy Ea. It would destroy Gilgamesh's treasury, leaving nothing behind. That lance is singularly beyond power. Which is why the writers make it a point to not really pull out Lancer Artoria too much, because if you think Gilgamesh and Ea is the I win button, Lancer Artoria is the good luck you tried button. But now I'm gonna kick your ass.
So she is one of those characters in Fate where it's a little unclear as to how strong she might be comparatively to some of the other high tiers in the verse, but thankfully in her interlude, where after being defeated as the Lion King in the Camelot Singularity, she then goes on to be...
Now keep in mind, for those who don't know about the Avalon Singularity, she quote unquote was defeated. Now, in the game, you obviously fight her because it's a game, but canonically, for those who watched the anime adaptation of the Avalon Singularity, where you can see what the writers were actually getting with, you can see that you don't actually, that canonically there is not a fight with her. There's a fight with her knights for sure, but when you actually finally do get to Lancer Artoria, you don't fight her physically. There's no like fisticuffs, because that's the point. When it comes to a pure fight, you would lose. I mean, technically there is an attack thrown, but at that point we're dealing with, like, for example, we're dealing with Shield or Mash, who now knows who her Noble Phantasm belongs to, and so she pulls out her Noble Phantasm, which is strong enough to block, not defeat, but block a strike from the lance, mainly due to the fact that, like the lance itself, the shield is powered up by humanity's desires. It is powered up by an imaginary factor. So long as Mash believes that she can defend against the lance, the shield will defend against the lance. That's the ultimate thing, is that in order to defeat the shield, you need to defeat the person's ego. You need to make them believe that they're not strong enough, therefore the shield is not strong enough, therefore it won't defend. But Mash, canonically, because of her master giving her encouraging words, Mash did believe that she was strong enough to block the lance, therefore she did. But again, I keep repeating, she blocked. She did not defeat. She just blocked. That's all she could do. So, how did they quote unquote defeat Artoria? They defeated Artoria by talking her into admitting defeat. By that I mean she just admits to be like, okay, my plan doesn't really work. It's not really a good plan. So I'll undo what I did, and I'll take my knights and myself, and we'll just bounce out of here. So it's not really a defeat in the strength sense. It's more of a defeat in talk no jutsu. Artoria admitted defeat. Like she herself was just like, okay, I'm good. Like, so I again when this guy brings up the fact that Mash and Ritsuka quote unquote defeated Lance Artoria, I want it to be very well known that they didn't defeat Artoria because they were more powerful than Artoria. They just got Artoria to see their side. That's about it. So in terms of an actual fight, though, oh no, Artoria would destroy. like like you know that whole meme thing of like slay queen slay. That's all that whole thing. Oh, that's Lancer Artoria. Lancer Artoria would have slayed everyone in front of her, like no question. The only reason why she was defeated at the end of the Camelot Singularity is just because of the fact that she saw from Ritsuka's point of view and was just like, cool. Here's the Holy Grail. I'm gonna take my knights and we're gonna get the fuck out of here.
Just normal Lancer Artoria under Ritsuka, and then she goes into a dream where Romulus kind of sets up some trials to try and help her acclimate to Chaldea. However, this is not like a buddy-buddy training type thing. This is Romulus gathering some of the stronger servants that we have to basically force Lancer Artoria to make a decision as to whether or not she's going to be an actual servant or if she's just going to get annihilated by Romulus, because two of the servants that he brings with him are Gilgamesh and Ozymandias, and Lancer Artoria passes with flying colors. She's able to beat Gilgamesh, Ozymandias, even Romulus himself, and then by the end of her interlude, she kind of accepts the fact that, you know, she is a Chaldean servant, and she is going to follow Ritsuka Fujimaro's commands. And then in Summer 4 goes on to do some really OP stuff that we'll probably talk about in a different video. But those are 5 servants that I think could be Gilgamesh. If you have any others that you would like to list in the comments down below, go ahead and sound off down there.
Okay, he's just gonna do his ending thing. All right, cool. Well, that was this guy's opinion for the 5 servants who can beat Gilgamesh. You guys liked it. Hope all that good stuff. I will hopefully see you guys next time.